You're listening to Scary Sleep Stories presents The Dark Hours.
Welcome, guys. I know a lot of you use these stories to fall asleep. So before you drift off like the video, subscribe if you're new, and comment what time it is right now. Let's see who's still awake and who's not alone tonight. Let's begin. Story 1. The Village Beyond the Pines. It began with a map, an old weathered sheet tucked between the pages of a secondhand book that Alex bought from a dusty roadside stall. Faded ink marked out trails none of them had seen before, narrow paths threading through thick forests, skirting along jagged mountain ridges. At the center, circled in red, was a name none of them had heard. Nirvashtika. 5 friends, Alex, Mira, Dev, Rishi, and Zara, decided to follow the trail. They were seasoned trekkers, lovers of mystery and untouched places, bound together by curiosity and a shared yearning for stories that couldn't be found on the internet. A village not on the map, hidden between forest and mountain? It was irresistible. They left early in the morning, their backpacks filled with essentials and cameras, laughter bubbling between them. The path was steep and stubborn, clawing into the wilderness. Trees loomed tall and ancient, blocking the sun, filtering the light into soft green hues. The further they walked, the quieter the world became. No signals, no signs, no more laughter. Just the rhythm of their steps and the whisper of the wind. It was Zara who noticed the silence first. No birds, she murmured. No insects. Nothing. They stopped and listened. She was right. The forest was still, too still. Probably just a thick canopy, Rishi said, brushing it off. We're near the mountains. Maybe it's natural. They moved on. By dusk, the path had narrowed into a trail barely wide enough for a single person. It wound around the edge of a sheer cliff face, roots like twisted veins rising from the soil. Then, as the last light faded, they saw it, the village, Nirvashtika. Nestled in a bowl between the forest and the mountains, half sunken into the earth like it was trying to hide from the sky. Thatched roofs, crooked wooden fences, and an odd mist that clung low to the ground like breath that wouldn't leave. No lights, no movement, but not abandoned. They could feel it. They entered Nirvashtika just as night pulled its heavy blanket over the sky. The houses were small and scattered, shapes flitted behind curtained windows. The air felt thick and wrong, like walking through old memories that didn't want to be remembered. A woman emerged from one of the houses. Her hair was long, dark, and straight, falling past her waist. She wore a faded red shawl, and her face, though kind, looked drained of time. You've come far, she said quietly. Come in. The cold here, it lingers. Inside her home, warmth returned. She offered them tea, dark and bitter, and bread that tasted faintly of wood smoke. What is this village? Mira asked gently. There's nothing about it online. There wouldn't be, the woman replied, sitting near the hearth. Nirvashtika is not meant to be found. People don't leave, and those who arrive rarely do so twice. The fire crackled. They all stared. Alex, ever the curious one, leaned forward. Why? She smiled faintly. Some places are remembered by the earth, not by people. Later, she showed them where they could rest. A small, empty house at the edge of the village. its windows covered with cloth and walls etched with strange patterns, symbols none of them recognized, yet felt strangely familiar. That night, they couldn't sleep. Zara heard whispers from the walls. Rishi said he saw lights moving between the trees. Dev woke up sweating, gasping, as if something had pressed its weight on his chest. Mira dreamt of a child with no eyes. Alex sat at the edge of the bed, wide awake, staring at the door, waiting. Morning came slowly. The mist hadn't lifted. It never did. Outside, villagers moved silently. None of them smiled. None of them made eye contact. They walked with a quiet coordination, as if they were all part of the same breath, the same thought. "Let's not stay too long," Dev whispered. "We've seen enough." But it wasn't that easy. When they tried to retrace their steps, the forest shifted. The path was gone. No markings, no footprints, nothing. Just a wall of trees, silent and uninviting. They returned to the village, unsure if they had made a mistake. The woman was waiting. "Sometimes the way disappears," she said gently. "You must wait. Let the village remember you first." "What does that mean?" Mira asked. But the woman only smiled. That day passed slowly. They explored Nervashtika cautiously. No one stopped them, but no one welcomed them either. Children peeked from behind door frames, then vanished. Dogs stared without blinking. The air grew heavier by the hour, like breathing through velvet. Rishi found an old temple behind a cluster of overgrown trees. The doors were shut, wrapped in chains and red cloth. A sign, hand-painted and cracked, read, "Do not open what was bound." He told the others. They decided not to go near it again. That night was worse. Zara saw someone standing at the foot of her bed, just a silhouette, motionless. When she turned on the torch, it was gone. Mira sleepwalked. They found her at dawn, kneeling in front of the chained temple, whispering in a voice that wasn't hers. Dev was missing for 2 hours. When they found him, he was digging a hole behind the house, hands raw and bleeding. He had no memory of it. And Alex? Alex sat silently by the window, scribbling symbols into a notebook. The same symbols from the walls. "We need to leave," Mira said. "I don't care if there's no path. We'll make one." But the village had other plans. The woman returned. "There is a rhythm to this place," she said. "It does not like to be disturbed. Some of you carry noise, echoes from the world outside." "What do you mean?" Dev asked, voice shaking. "The longer you stay, the more it will know you," she said softly. "The more it will ask of you." That night, they boarded the windows and sat together, every torch turned on. No one slept. Alex didn't speak anymore. His eyes had changed, dark, sunken, like something inside him was retreating. Zara whispered a name in her sleep. "Anakal." When asked what it meant, she didn't remember saying it. Then the knocking began, soft, measured, from every side of the house. Not frantic, not random. It was a pattern. 3 knocks, pause. 2 knocks, pause. 5 knocks. Again and again. They held hands, hearts pounding. Then, a voice outside, low and ancient. "You've been remembered." The door creaked. Morning came, but the sun did not. The mist had thickened into fog. Even the village was harder to see. The people were gone. All the doors shut, No sound, no footsteps. They were alone. No one had spoken since the knocking. They tried again to leave. Each path they took only brought them back to the same point, the chained temple, and this time, the door was open, just slightly, enough to feel the cold spilling out, enough to hear the soft sound of something breathing inside. Alex walked toward it without hesitation. The other screamed his name, but he stepped in, and the door slammed shut behind him. They pounded and cried and shouted, but there was no answer, only silence. Then the fog began to lift, only a little, enough for them to see the path. No words were spoken, no goodbyes. They ran. Branches whipped their arms, roots tripped their feet. The forest moaned behind them, as if waking from a deep sleep. They didn't stop, not until the trees thinned and the sun broke through. 3 of them stood at the edge of the forest, trembling. Alex was gone. The village was gone. Nothing remained, not even a footprint, just wind and trees and the distant sound of a bird's call. They never found Nervashtika again. The map disappeared from Alex's journal. The notebook with the symbols turned blank. Years passed. Sometimes, Mira dreams of the woman by the hearth, smiling softly. Sometimes, Zara wakes up whispering that name again, Anakal. And sometimes, when the wind blows just right through the trees, Rishi swears he hears knocking. 3 knocks, pause. 2 knocks, pause. 5 knocks, again and again, as if something still remembers them, still waits. In a village the world was never meant to find. Story 2. The Haunting of Windermere Manor. Windermere Manor stood perched on a craggy rise overlooking the restless sea, its silhouette etched against the murmuring sunset like a faded secret. For generations, the sprawling mansion had been both a beacon of grandeur and a repository of broken stories, its walls soaked in time, in whispered tragedies and footsteps no longer heard. Emma Kingsley arrived in the village of Windermere seeking refuge and solitude. A historian by trade, she was drawn to the manor by the death of its last owner, Lady Eleanor Windermere, whose passing reopened old wounds and speculation in the town. Emma's task was simple on paper: catalog the estate's archives, piece together its fragmented past, and prepare the manor for public tours. But as the days passed and the nights deepened, she would discover that history at Windermere offered no easy truths, only shadows lingering in rooms locked tight since the Great War. The village itself was small, its cobblestone streets twisting between time-worn cottages and ancient chapels. Locals regarded the manor with a mix of awe and dread, telling Emma with downcast eyes of disappearances, spectral sightings, and unquestioned sorrow. They spoke, too, of a cursed ledger, an old book said to detail the house's deepest secrets and darker deeds. The ledger was lost, they whispered, swallowed in the flames of a fire decades past, though some claimed it still breathed its stories into the manor's damp air. Emma's first night in the manor was defined by the wind and its mournful cry through cracked panes. The vast corridors stretched endlessly, lined with portraits whose eyes seemed to follow, catching the flicker of candlelight with quiet disdain. She set about her work, uncovering letters soaked with melancholy and vials of dried herbs tucked beneath floorboards relics of forgotten rituals. As autumn waned, peculiar events unsettled her. Footsteps echoed softly in rooms she was certain she'd locked. Faint music, distant and discordant, drifted from the west wing, where repairs were unfinished. Her journals began to fill with fragmented impressions. Ghostly figures glimpsed in mirrors, the scent of old perfume against the salt air, stories half heard and never told. One afternoon, Emma found herself drawn to the library, an expansive chamber flooded with dusty light from stained glass windows. Here, within a secreted alcove, she discovered a hidden compartment behind a false panel in the wall. Inside lay a leather-bound journal etched with the initials E.W., perhaps Eleanor's. Its brittle pages unfolded a tale of love, betrayal, and chilling mystery. Eleanor's forbidden romance with a soldier who vanished in the trenches, a clandestine pact made by the manor's ancestors, and a haunting curse that would not be broken until truth and justice were reconciled. Marie, the village librarian and an unlikely confidant to Emma, shared forgotten folk tales of cursed relics smuggled from the manor, rooms where shadows waited for dawn, and children never seen again but heard crying in storms. Together, they pieced incomplete stories like pilgrims tracing secret maps, each discovery stirring the manor's restless spirit. The nights grew more harrowing. Dreams bled into waking life. Emma often found herself standing in hallways cold as marble, hearing indistinct voices pleading for release or redemption. She awoke one night beside an open window, the chill air whispering a name, her own, in a voice she could neither place nor forget. Determined, Emma ventured into the manor's cellar, a labyrinthine stone warren where time contracted and lurked. There, she uncovered a wall, engraved with names, markings of those who had vanished throughout the manor's history. Beneath the names, a fading inscription served as a grim testament. No soul leaves without the price paid. In the dark stillness, she sensed eyes watching. A presence unfurled, a pale woman with eyes like storm clouds and hair that flowed like water under moonlight. The figure whispered of sacrifice and sorrow, of debts owed and inescapable fates. Emma's research uncovered a final dreadful secret. To break the curse, a truth long buried beneath, lies, blood, and pride would need reckoning. But the manor demanded a price, a guardian, to bind the restless shadows and prevent them from tearing apart the living world. With that knowledge, Emma found herself standing at a crossroads. Leave the manor to its ghosts, or become the keeper of its memories and pain. The dawn painted the manor's silhouette gold and crimson as Emma lit the hearth, recalling the voices of the past and preparing to shoulder the stories whispered by the walls. Windermere Manor watches, always watches, and sometimes, when the wind turns just so, the voices call out beyond the veil, waiting, remembering, and never forgetting. Story 3. The Forgotten Prism. The village of Raven's Hollow clung to the edge of the world, hiding beneath a canopy of ancient pines and shrouded perpetually in mist. The locals spoke rarely of the past, and then only in whispers, as if the very air might carry their words into unwelcome ears. It was in this place that Ingrid Matthews found herself, drawn by a letter from a stranger and by a restless curiosity aching in her bones. Ingrid was a historian with a taste for forgotten lore and lost artifacts. Her life had been a series of quiet discoveries, academic papers on obscure legends, and nights spent reading by lantern light. But the letter was different. It promised something great, something hidden. It spoke of the prism, an artifact lost for centuries, with the power to reveal hidden truths and unravel the fabric of time itself. Arriving in Raven's Hollow, Ingrid saw the village's narrow streets winding between stone cottages, tilting under ivy's weight. The townsfolk eyed her like a moth approaches flame. The local innkeeper, an austere woman named Mabel, offered little welcome but a whisper. The prism's curse is old. It wakes with blood and shadows. Be wary, woman, from far away. Intrigued by the warning, Ingrid settled in the damp depths of the village's library. Ancient tomes lined shelves that bowed under the weight of dust and memory. By candlelight, she pored over records, mysterious disappearances, tracing decades like fingerprints, cryptic notations in margins, and maps etched on worn parchment. Among the scribbled notes, mention recurred of a family named Blackthorn, who once owned Raven's Hollow centuries ago. The Blackthorns were said to be scholars, alchemists, and keepers of the dangerous prism. The last of their line had vanished after a fire, consumed their mansion, leaving ruins where now only twisted roots and jagged stone remained. One evening, Ingrid encountered Ezra, a local recluse, rumored to be the last wandering descendant of the Blackthorns. His eyes shimmered with a secret knowing, and his words danced between warmth and warning. "The prism is no simple heirloom," he said, softly. "It dares reveal what truth demands hides. Many who sought it lost more than time, they lost themselves." Guided by Ezra's cryptic clues, Ingrid began a journey beneath the village. There, in yawning caverns entwined with roots and phosphorescent moss, she discovered the cryptic symbols of the Blackthorns carved into stone. Her lantern revealed a pathway spiraling downward for what felt like miles. At journey's end, Ingrid came upon a chamber pulsating faintly with etheric light, a prism suspended above a pedestal, gleaming with impossible hues. Its surface shifted, alive with visions of past and future, whispering secrets in colors that danced beyond her comprehension. Entranced but cautious, Ingrid reached out. The moment her fingers brushed the prism's surface, the cavern dissolved into a storm of memories, not hers, but the Blackthorn ancestors, their triumphs, sacrifices, and tragic fates rushing at her like tidal waves. She saw images of forbidden rituals, deals made in desperation, and the cost of seeking knowledge too deep for mortal minds. Faces, unspeakably anguished, flashed before her eyes. A memory of fire-consuming dreams and blood-sealing fates. Pulled violently into darkness, Ingrid awoke hours later outside the cavern. The prism gone, but a mark burning painfully on her palm. A symbol etched in light. Returning to the village under an ash-gray sky, Ingrid realized the nature of her burden. The prism's power was a double-edged sword. Its gift was illumination, but its price was madness. Days into her quest to understand, the village changed. Shadows lengthened unnaturally, and whispers followed her steps. Villagers avoided her gaze, doors locked behind her footsteps. Even Ezra's once clear eyes darkened with fear. The prism's visions haunted her waking life. She saw futures unraveling, her own reflection fracturing into innumerable selves, some lost, some broken, some unrecognizable. Faced with the weight of what she had unleashed, Ingrid forged a pact with Ezra to seal the prism's power forever. Deep within the Flan, ancient woods, beneath a stone circle older than the village walls, they enacted a ceremony to bind the artifact to the earth. The air shimmered with raw energy, and time itself trembled. The prism resisted, its light flaring like wrath, but the ritual's power, born on voices of ancestors and the resolve of the present, prevailed. Bound beneath stone and root, the prism's whisper furled into silence. The village, long shackled by the secret's shadow, exhaled. The mist lifted, revealing sunlit streets and clear waters where once the dark stirred. Ingrid, marked eternally by the prism's embrace, chose to remain to protect what must remain hidden, to guard against those who would lose themselves in the hunger for forbidden knowledge. At dusk, when the world softens into twilight, she can still feel the prism's pulse beneath her skin, a reminder that some mysteries are eternal and some truths are best left buried. Story 4. On a gentle summer evening, 5 friends, Arya, Leo, Mia, Sam, and Nora, decided to embark on a quiet adventure. They had heard of a village whispered about in old tales, a place nestled deep between the folds of towering mountains and an ancient forest, was said to be secluded, isolated from the world, a village that time had almost forgotten. Drawn by curiosity and a yearning for something beyond their ordinary days, they packed lightly, each choosing what few belongings felt most essential: a warm blanket, a small notebook, a flask of water, and something meaningful to them, and set out towards the unknown. The evening air was warm, but carried a cooling promise of nightfall as they stepped beyond their familiar streets. Their feet soon found paths tangled with wildflowers nodding softly in the breeze. The earth beneath them was a patchwork of moss, leaves, and ancient roots twisted like the veins of the forest itself. The tall pines and oaks rose and arched over them, forming a cathedral of green that filtered the last rays of the sun into golden speckles on the ground. The winding path was not marked on any modern map, only hinted at in the whispers of old storytellers and in dreams shared around campfires. Each step took them deeper into a world untouched by noise and haste. The birdsong faded to a respectful hush, replaced by the gentle rustle of leaves and the quiet, soothing babble of a distant stream. As they walked, the friends shared stories and laughter that seemed to weave into the fabric of the forest. Mia, with her keen eye for detail, pointed out delicate mushrooms glowing faintly in the dusk. Sam, ever the philosopher, spoke softly about the balance of nature and the stories the earth kept hidden under its skin. Nora, the most intuitive among them, remarked on the feeling of eyes watching them from the shadows, not in menace, but as guardians of a sacred place. The trail grew steeper and rockier as they approached the mountains, each step a small triumph of will and wonder. The air grew cooler, scented now with the crispness of pine and something else, something wild and untouched. Their breaths came in rhythm with the earth's own pulse, steady and slow, as if the mountains themselves guided their journey. Just as the purple hues of twilight painted the sky, the dense trees suddenly parted, revealing the village. It was as if they had stepped through a veil into another time. The village was small and intimate, with cobblestone streets winding between rustic timber houses, their roofs steep and darkened by years of rain and wind. Climbing ivy-traced patterns along worn wooden walls, and lanterns hung from crooked posts, their glass softly glowing despite the absence of any visible flame. Smoke curled lazily from several chimneys, twisting upwards into the night sky. The village was alive, yet utterly still. The silence was thick and deep, not empty, but full of stories waiting to be told. It wrapped around the friends like a warm cloak, comforting and mysterious. All at once, carefully, they stepped into the village square. At its center stood a well, encircled with flowering vines, and around it, a ring of ancient stone benches worn smooth by countless hands and years. The windows of the houses gleamed with a soft golden light, but no figures stirred inside. A quiet unease stirred in their hearts, not from fear, but from the strange beauty of a place caught between times. Arya's voice broke the silence with a whisper. "Do you think anyone lives here?" Leo crouched by the well, watching the smoke swirl. No signs of movement, but the smoke suggests someone nearby. Maybe they're shy. Or perhaps they live hidden, like the village itself, drawn by a mixture of curiosity and caution. Mia moved towards one of the houses. The door was slightly open, revealing a dimly lit interior flickering with candlelight. She pushed the door gently wider and peered inside. The room was small and neat, lined with shelves holding jars of herbs, woven baskets, and hand-stitched cloths. Dried flowers hung in clusters from the beams, casting faint shadows that danced with the candlelight. A wooden table bore plates set as if awaiting a meal, and by the hearth lay a pair of knitting needles, still resting in half-finished work. The house felt lived in and loved but abandoned. Suddenly, caught in a suspended moment, Nora shivered involuntarily, though there was no breeze. She stepped back, and the friends gathered close, feeling the village's hidden heartbeat thrumming beneath the silence. As night wrapped around them fully, the stars burst into the sky. A million pinpricks of light spread across the velvet canopy. The forest leaned close, seeming to guard the village as protectively as a mother does her child. Then, carried on the night wind, came a melody, a soft, haunting tune like a lullaby sung by the earth itself. The friends listened, transfixed, as the music wove through the trees and lanes like a silver thread. Compelled by the melody, they followed its tender call beyond the village's edge to a small grove of ancient oaks. Here, soft, glowing lights floated gently among the boughs, their shimmer pulsing softly as if breathing in tune with the forest. These were no ordinary flames but willow, the wisps, ethereal and mesmerizing. Their presence, both eerie and peaceful. They sat together beneath the trees, the moss soft beneath them, feeling the deep quiet settle around like a blanket. The village's story wrapped around them, each breath and whispered word a verse in an untold legend. Sam's voice broke the silence, barely more than a breath. It feels like this village is waiting for something or someone to remember it. Arya's eyes reflected the glowing lights. It's alive in ways we can't quite understand. And maybe, just maybe, it has chosen us as part of its story now. The friends lay back, gazing upward through the trees to the stars scattered over the mountain peaks, feeling time slow and the world soften. As the friends settled into the quiet of the village night, a soft breeze stirred the leaves overhead, whispering secrets they could almost grasp but never fully understand. Leo, who had always been fascinated by the unseen, spoke softly. There's a kind of ancient wisdom here, as if the village remembers everything it has ever seen. Mia nodded, tracing her fingers along the rough bark of a nearby tree. It feels like we've stepped into a moment paused in time, where the past and present fold into one another. Nora closed her eyes and breathed deeply, letting the cool air fill her lungs. Sometimes, places carry feelings like people do this one. Feels both welcoming and sad, like it's waiting for us to listen. Sam pulled his jacket tighter around him, watching the flickering lights drift lazily through the branches. Maybe that melody we heard is the voice of the village itself, singing its story into the night. Arya, ever the observer, pulled out her small notebook and began to sketch the scene, the crooked houses, the glowing lights, the ancient well wrapped in ivy. If only we could capture this moment forever, she murmured, so the village doesn't fade again. As the night deepened, the friends felt a calmness settle over them, a quiet understanding that they were part of something larger. The world outside with its noise and haste seemed far away, replaced by the soft rhythm of the earth beneath them. Just before sleep took hold, they shared their thoughts in a quiet circle, their voices low and tender. Leo spoke of the power of memory, how some places hold on to it like a treasure. Mia wondered if the village was a guardian of forgotten dreams. Nora talked about hope that perhaps their visit would breathe new life into the old stories. Sam reflected quietly on the connection between people and place, how sometimes the simplest moments carried the deepest magic, and Arya, looking around at her friends in the village bathed in moonlight, whispered, "This night will stay with us, a gentle light in the dark." As sleep crept in, a gentle voice spoke to each of them, words unspoken but deeply understood. It spoke of the earth's silent rhythms, the fragile veil between night and day, and the quiet magic hidden in forgotten places. The village cradled them in its timeless embrace, and they slept under the watchful eyes of ancient trees, wrapped in dreams woven from the forest's own soul. At dawn, as pale pink and gold spilled across the horizon, they awoke slowly, the memory of night's wonder pressing softly against their hearts, rising and ready to leave. The village seemed to smile one last time, its knowing presence assuring them that they were always welcome back. Their journey home felt lighter, the burdens of the world softened by the village's quiet magic. The whispers of that hidden place thrummed gently inside them, a secret melody to carry in their hearts. The five friends returned, forever changed by the mysterious village tucked between the forest and mountains. It was more than a place, it was a feeling, a memory, a shared dream that would softly guide them whenever they needed peace. You've been listening to Scary Sleep Stories. May your dreams be calm and your night undisturbed.